Good morning, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and as you can see, I'm in the car. I'm about ready to go into the Frederick ComicCon. This is the little show that is held by the same group that does the shows down in Annandale, Virginia, but that show is a small firehouse show, and half of that is card dealers with sports cards and things like that. But most of those dealers that you're going to find in that little show are going to be at this show, and it's a lot bigger. It's a bigger hotel room show. It is about 98% probably completely comic books. And it's a lot of dealers, the ones down in Annandale, plus a lot of others. You get some others coming down from southern Pennsylvania, from Western Maryland. I mean, it's a good choice of dealers in here today. And I'm excited because I had a couple dealers reach out to me and said, hey, we got some new stuff in. I think you're going to be excited about it. They wouldn't tell me what it was, but I'm excited to see what they've got. I'm excited to see if we can knock off a few more things on the 2023 goals list, and maybe we pick up some other things. You never know what you're going to find when you go in here. You got to keep an open mind. Hopefully, I'm going to not have an open wallet too much unless I find a gem or two that I really, really want. Maybe it's something that we can invest in and work on, get it cleaned and pressed and send it out to CGC as an investment book. Maybe it's the same thing, but we do it and it's for the PC. I don't know. You don't know what you're going to find when you go in here, but I'm excited. I'm going to go in now. I'm going to go through the show. We'll come back afterwards. I'll do some footage from the show and I'll come back. We'll sit down. We'll go through the books. Hopefully I'll get some good things and we'll talk about the show a little bit. So stay tuned. But before I go, definitely hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my episodes that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, sit back, enjoy the footage, and I will see you in a moment. All right, guys, so I just finished up at the Frederick Comic Con, I am back in the car. I'm getting ready to head home. I ended up picking up a few nice books. Nothing spectacular, but there's some nice keys that I did pick up. What I did not find was a lot of stuff that I was definitely looking for from my goals list. I didn't necessarily find the John Byrne X-Men books that I really were looking for to fill in some of those gaps. Now, I've got these books, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking for really pristine copies. And I do appreciate some of the dealers there that have gotten to know me, and I'll ask about a book and he'll look at me and he'll go, "That's not for you." And like, "Well, let me look at the book." And he goes, "No, I'm telling you." And he'll point out that little defect that's not pressable, and he say, "Yeah, this is not what you're looking for." So it's nice to know that some of the guys have gotten to know me and know what I'm looking for and know how particular I am on certain things. So having said that, we're going to head home. We're going to take a look at the books, and that's about it. So stay tuned. I'll go home. We'll be right back.
All right, so I finally made it back home after going to the Frederick ComicCon. I hope you enjoyed some of that footage from the show. It really doesn't do it justice. There were definitely a lot of dealers there and a lot of comics, and I try to shoot the books that don't have a lot of people standing in front of it there. I don't want to get a lot of people in the footage and have any issues with that and everything. So it's just a small sampling of what is at this show. And you can definitely find a lot of toys there as well. And these are a lot of the same dealers that, again, that you can find down in Annandale, Virginia. It's put on by the same group that puts on this show. Had a great time, and it was nice that I wasn't traveling after the show and I could take my time and go through the books, go through the bins, because I definitely found some things at this show. Now, I still was looking for bigger books that were going to be on my 2023 goals list. And that didn't really happen at this show. So I was a little bit more disciplined than I normally am. I didn't just automatically switch and start going to other books. Well, I did, but I didn't just jump into anything. So definitely when I wasn't finding my goals list books that I wanted, I just kind of, and that's not to say that I didn't find some of those. You still have a lot of dealers that have price tags on their books that feel like it's still 2021. And I've gotten to the point now that if I go, I'm almost bypassing certain dealers. I mean, there is one dealer in particular that doesn't put prices on his book, and I don't even bother to go to his stand anymore. And he has a lot of stuff, and it's the same spiel. And literally, I listened to him do a spiel talking to one of the customers there at this table about how he looks up the prices and it's the most accurate and it saves you money and everything. And I'll be honest, the one time I ended up buying something from him, I felt like I way overspent. Plus, I don't like spending time having to wait for you to look up those prices. Have your books priced, and then we can negotiate. Otherwise, I'm not going to go and ask you what the price is on something. I don't have the time. And I don't know how a lot of you guys feel about it, but I just don't want to spend the time if we're not at a starting point. That price that you put on there is a starting point. And hopefully, well, in some cases, you put the price tag on it and it's too high, but that tells me I'm not going to buy from you. I mean, I guess it's a double-edged sword for a dealer, I suppose. But regardless, there are certain dealers that I'm starting to bypass just because the prices are too high. Now, I didn't buy from everybody, and there's definitely some of my friends there that I did not pick up some books from, and that doesn't mean that their books were priced too high or that they didn't have price tags on there. It just, there wasn't anything necessarily that was stroking the fancy and anything that I just wanted to jump on at that point. But there was one dealer there that I definitely have been buying stuff from most recently. In fact, this was the only dealer I bought stuff from down in Annandale a month ago. And this was the Eclectic Nerd. And again, you guys, I'll leave you their information down in the description. You can find out about the fellows there. They are on Instagram. That's the link I'm going to give you. And they were the only ones I bought stuff from down in Annandale. Well, they were at this show and with an expanded section, which was really cool. If you saw in the footage there, you saw the end cap of all of those oversized 1970s Marvel and DC, they're reprint books, but all of those Marvel Mastery editions, and I'm not even sure what the DC ones were called, but Treasury editions, I guess. And I grew up on those things. So it was great seeing a whole rack and the end cap of those things here. That was from these guys. And it was nice to, in fact, when I went to the show, the first table I went to, I made a beeline because I kind of knew where they were probably going to be. And I went right to their table because their books don't disappoint. And it was funny when I got to the table, they were in the middle of talking and I was going through the books and we're just chatting a little bit there. But I'll give you a story. Let me give you the story first. So there was a fellow there that was there to pick up some books and it was to make a deal. And literally they reached behind the table and they pulled out a stack of books like this. It was a complete run of The Badger, Mike Barr's The Badger. And if you guys haven't read that book, what a fun book. It was mostly published by First Comics. And Mike Barr, of course, is co-creator of Nexus. And anyway, Badger was just a fun run. You guys, if you've never had a chance, go back, find some of those First and Capital Comics and then First Comics editions of those things. Just a crazy, crazy character, and what a fun character. Well, the deal apparently was this: they had a whole run of this, and I don't know what flavor Gatorade they traded it for, but literally it was a special flavor of Gatorade that he gave to the guys that you can only find in certain locations or whatever. That was the deal that was done. I thought that was pretty hilarious to walk in on that. But besides those Badger books, those guys have fantastic books. And I ended up going through stuff and I ended up finding a couple things that I held on to. And then before I said, hold on to these. I'm going to go around and look at the rest of the show. I'm definitely going to get these books, but you've got some other things of interest I may come back for in addition to the ones I want you to hold. But before I got a chance to leave, Jason there with the Eclectic Nerd says, hey, I've got something for you. So let me show you what he gave me. They had new trucker hats made up, and he gave me one of those, and I said, oh my God, I'm going to show this on the channel. I have to wear it now. And let me show you the logo. And so I imagine if you go to their Instagram page, you may be able to pick up some of these hats. That's pretty cool, right, guys? So let's just put that on right now. How's that look? Does that look pretty good? Yeah, it's not too bad. So thank you guys. I appreciate the hat. And I told you I'd shout you out in the channel anyway. Even if they didn't give me a hat, you're going to get shouted out because you were one of only 2 dealers I ended up buying comics from. So long story longer is I went around the rest of the show and I checked out very slowly. I went through everything. And I went through modern. I take it back. I really wasn't focused on modern so much. I was looking for books on my list. Then I'd go down to bigger keys and then smaller keys. And then I'm definitely always keeping my eye out on Golden Age Disney, especially Uncle Scrooge and who was it? Donald Duck, things like that. And I just wasn't finding a lot of it. And again, I was finding a lot of dealers that had this stuff. But what I'm finding is just the prices are just, I think they're too much. I think it's too high of a starting point. And I just wasn't in the mood to sit there and negotiate on books that I wasn't completely interested in. I was looking for those deals, right? I'm looking for good prices. And that's why I go back to the Eclectic Nerd. I think they start their prices at a really good price on most of their books. And plus the condition of their books are fantastic. So I ended up going around the show and I ended up finding another book at another place. And I'll go over that. And I pretty much have told you now, I only picked up 3 books at this show. I didn't go crazy. And that was because, again, I didn't find books on my list for this year as much. But I get back to the Eclectic Nerd, and they pulled the books out for me, the 2 books I ended up buying. And I went through the rest of their bins. I spent another half hour there at least going through their bins, and I found there was a couple beautiful, very beautiful Detective Comics Neil Adams covers. I don't recall the number on it. And I held on to it for a little bit until I got a chance to pull out my ultraviolet flashlight that I keep with me when I go to shows. I use that to help me show color break on books. And it looked like there was a little crease up there in the upper right-hand corner, and the light in that room was not that good. So I took my ultraviolet light and I could put that on there, and I could definitely tell there was a color break going down that spot on that dog ear. So I ended up putting that book back. I mean, I think it would have been at a decent price, but my experience with those dog ears is things like that. Even if the book is perfect the rest of the way, it's going to be a 7.5. And I didn't want to, I really wasn't interested in that book at a 7.5, even though would have presented beautifully. So I put that back and we looked at some other things. And what was curious is, as coming back to the table, they had literally wiped out about half of their wall. Well, maybe not quite half, but almost the top row and then part of that second row completely gone. They literally made a deal with somebody who took about $4,000 worth of comics. And I'm going, man, I'm not bringing my A game to these shows. I'm bringing my C game or something, because that guy ended up with a stack of books. I mean, he put a pretty penny out. Good for him. I wish I had remembered what the books were that he picked up, but that was a good deal for him, I suppose. But I still had my books. You know, I'm a penny pincher, guys. I'm looking really good books at a small price that I can, if it's not for the PC, I'm going to clean and press. Well, I'm going to clean and press usually anyway. Then I'm going to turn around, I'm going to get them CGC'd, and I may keep them or I may sell them depending on how good that grade is and what their values are. But so that brings me to the point, is the two books that I ended up picking up from the Eclectic Nerd were this right here. Let's start with this. This is a book that's been on my list this year. Not the goals list, but it's been in the neighborhood of the list. And it's a book I've never had, but it is a great comics first appearance, and it is Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, number 9, the first appearance of the White Tiger. And this is the very first Puerto Rican superhero, and I believe it's one of the Marvel magazines where he makes his first appearance, but this is his first appearance in the comics. And only reason I've always known about this book. It wasn't high on any of my lists, but over the last 6 months, I've noticed it being talked about a little bit more, and I keep running across it in different places. And one of my best friends at Amazon is from Puerto Rico, and we were talking about this, and it actually made him go out there and start looking for this book too, even though he's not a comic book fan. He was just, interested in what the first Puerto Rican superhero was. So I ended up picking this up, and this is just a beautiful copy. I mean, in fact, they had another copy there that was in a different bin that actually, I think this one looked better than that one, and this one, the price on these, I'll tell you what I spent on both of these books in a second, but I was real happy to pick this up. Let me give you some stats on Spectacular Spider-Man number 1, or Spectacular Spider-Man, number 9 here. Let me turn that. I'm getting a little bit of light on that. This right here from 1977, as I said, this is the first White Tiger in Standard Comics. 9.8s go for about $300. 9.6s drop all the way down to $100. That was a recent sale, but I looked on eBay and people are still asking 9.6s in that $179 range. So it's kind of hard to tell what would be accepted right now. I don't know if you're going to find another one for $100. I think you'd end up having to do maybe $150, $170 to get this book as a 9.6. 9.4's last sale went down all the way to $71. I think this is a really good candidate. I mean, as I said, it wasn't the most expensive one that they had, but it's a very colorful cover. The spine ticks will show up big time, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, man, that's just beautiful. Well, I ended up picking up a second book. And this is exactly the same as this one. I think the price was just fantastic to begin with. And they gave me a little bit of a discount off of this. And this one has got a couple of very minor ticks. I'm looking at it right now. Just very minor, but sharp corners on the top. And it's a dark cover on the top and on the left, and especially the top. And I've got this book as well in a pretty high grade. And I don't think that one that I paid 3 times as much for. When did I pick that up? I guess it would have been last summer. I paid 3 times as much for that as I did this, and this is definitely a better copy of this. This right here is Avengers 144, the first appearance of Hellcat. Now, Hellcat is Patsy Walker, from Marvel fame, all of those teenage books from the 60s and stuff like that. She was in the Avengers, and she ends up finding the original cat costume, and it gives her supernatural ability, super super abilities, I guess, and she becomes the Hellcat. So this is her first appearance. Just an absolute beautiful copy. 9.8s on something like this, I mean, literally have gone for $1,700. 9.6s dropped down to $495. 9.4s are about that $160. I've got my guess, especially with those two minor ticks over there, it's going to be in that 9.4 range. I still think that's a really good grade. And as I said, that was a sale of 160. I think probably you could probably sell, if you could find that again. I don't know if you'd find it again for 160, but I felt like this was a super clean copy. They literally, the Eclectic Nerd guys, they literally had $20 price tags on both of these to begin with, and they ended up, in the end, I want to thank you guys for the deal. You knocked a few dollars off of this. I ended up paying $30 for both of these, and I think that was just, I appreciate that. These are books that I love to have in my PC. Honestly, I can't wait to get them graded and see what I ended up with. I may sell them eventually, but aren't we all, I mean, most of us are in this to put books into our PC. Sometimes we're in it to resell and put that money towards other books. So I don't know how you guys feel. I talk a lot about selling and building for the PC. Everybody's got a different feeling on it. So if I start talking about a lot of money going in and out of this comes from a love of the comics. I don't look at it just as an investment. I wouldn't buy this book. I buy books that I like. Mostly. I mean, I'd say 98% of the books I buy are books that I would want on my PC one way or the other, and I don't mind reselling them because I'm going to find them again. What do I always do? I sell a book and I turn around and I buy it again because I love having these books on my PC. But I don't mind putting a little effort into a book like this and seeing if we clean and press it, get it graded, and see what we can get. And sometimes they end up being worth a lot more than you expect. So a little bit of ramble here, but I feel like I'm explaining when I really shouldn't have to explain. But guys, thank you for the deal on the books. I love both of these. So that was it from the Eclectic Nerd. And then I ended up, as I said, I only ended up buying one other book. And it wasn't from lack of other good books. And I did have a couple other friends in there that had some great books. Joe from Pop-Up Comics always has fantastic books. And I'll be honest, a lot of their bins have got these modern, really good books. There's a lot of great books that they've got. It just wasn't anything on my list currently. So don't take it personally that I didn't pick up anything from you. And I definitely, I come to your table all the time. I come there and film, and we talk about comics. And you're always really good, Joe, about letting me know if it's a book I was interested in. There was a couple of Alien, oh my God, what was the book? It's a couple books from Dave Stevens. I'm blanking off the top of my head. Dave Stevens covers, and I said, hey, can I take a look at those? And he said, these books aren't for you. And I'm going, okay, can I still take a look at them? And he said, he pulled them up and he showed me the defects. He says, I know what you want. You want those things for a 9.6, basically 9.8's what you want. And he says, they're not going to get there. And I appreciate that, and eventually we'll come back. We'll go back to another show. You never know what I'm going to find. You never know what I'm going to speculate on the next time. You never know what I want for my next PC book, right, guys? So, Joe, I appreciate that, and we'll find you at the next show. So that came down to one dealer I've gone to a lot, and he has a lot of modern books, but littered into his very modern and a lot of variant books, he has some gems in his bins. And I typically don't go through the bins as much as look at his wall, but he had a great book on the wall, and he was sitting there talking with somebody, and I didn't want to interrupt, so I spent a little time going through the bins. And what did I find? That same book that I had on the wall, he had 4 other copies sitting there in the bin. So it gave me a chance to pull them out and to look at them while he was still talking. I knew I'd want to take a look at the one on the wall. And it's a book that I have just started recently looking for, and it should have been on my list a lot sooner than this. And I'm a little surprised on the prices on that for the graded versions on this. In fact, that's probably, seeing the price on that, I probably should look at that, maybe just picking up a graded version of this. But nonetheless, I picked up a key first appearance of a character that is pretty well beloved because the artist is beloved. And if you picked up anything I've just been talking about, you know I just mentioned him by name a little bit ago. And I'm talking about Dave Stevens. And this is one of his, basically his greatest creation, The Rocketeer. And this is his first appearance in Star Slayer #2 from Pacific Comics. And I've never had this book, but it has recently came up on my radar, and I decided, okay, it was right there on one of the vendors' walls. And then when as I said, he was talking to somebody as I was going through the bins. Luckily, everything's alphabetized. I happened to find 4 other copies of this, and it gave me a chance to compare them side by side by side. When I finally got a chance to talk to the dealer, I ended up getting this copy too, and I'm sitting there looking at what the differences are between each one. Now, the 2 that he had for $15 each definitely had some wear on them like that. So they were in ticks too, color breaking ticks. So we ended up putting those back immediately. But then he had, maybe it was just 3 in the bins, I can't remember, but there was a $20 version, and he had this as a $40 version. And I'm sitting there looking at that $20 version, and I'm going, okay, what's the difference? And we sat there and we pulled them out and we took a look and everything. And what I could tell was this one's definitely a little bit brighter. The whites are a little bit sharper. And both of them are pretty much spine tick free, although the $20 one had some creases that could probably be pressed out. Even so, I decided, you know what? Let's go with the one that actually looks the best in this case. And as I said, this was he had a $40 price tag on it. He ended up giving it to me for $35, and I think that's what pretty much, I walked out of that show today with spending only about $65, and I think that was pretty good. I didn't overspend. I didn't spend it on things that I definitely didn't want or didn't have any feelings towards. I got books that I really like with characters that I really liked, and I think that's important. I think it's important that you enjoy this hobby and enjoy the books that you get. I think a lot of us come at this, whether we're selling or not, from a love of this. Most of us have grown up with comics. Maybe some of us took a step away from it for a while. Me, I never stepped away. I was very slow for a long time buying a lot of back issues, but doesn't mean I didn't pick up things every now and then. Since 2020, I've been really hardcore back into buying back issues and trying to really improve my collection. But I think a lot of us, back to my point, is we grew up with these things. They bring back fond memories and growing up, and it takes you back to those times. I mean, coming back in time when having this comic originally as a kid, that right there was, takes me back to remember when the first time I read that and got to see Hellcat in a comic. It was pretty good. You got George Perez, some of his first artwork on the Avengers right here. So good times. And even most of them people who are dealers, they come at this from a love of this profession, this hobby. So I don't know, I'm just rambling a little bit, but guys, I hope you definitely enjoy these kind of books. I mean, let me know what are some of your favorite books that you've picked up recently, and tell me why that you love them. I mean, leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the books that you just picked up, and why did you pick them up? Are they characters from your childhood, or were you just looking to reinvest in a book? Or are you just getting into comics now and going back and buying some of these great books that are out there? And be curious to see where other people are coming from. But that's it for today. Sorry, my voice is getting a little hoarse right here. I don't know why. Sorry about that. But I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, definitely think about subscribing if you haven't already. If you are a subscriber, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Definitely click on that notification bell. That way you guys will not miss out on any of my episodes I put out every Monday and Friday at 10 a.m. And also definitely hit that like button, because that helps the algorithm for the channel, gets it out there to more people. So I appreciate everybody who supports the channel, and that's about it. Guys, have a great day, and I will see you for the next show. You know it's going to be about comics. I just don't know what comics we're going to have next. So stay tuned, and I'll see you then. And remember, every comic has a story.